It's Monday, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It is me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. I want to thank you for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so on this, the 27th of April, as we're wrapping up. Folks, in just a few days, it's gonna be May. Well, again, we appreciate you tuning in here on the Jersey First Television Network. And certainly, if you haven't done so already, like, comment, and share, as well as subscribe to our great content here on Jersey First TV as we bring you the best analysis and commentary about everything going on in New Jersey politics, folks. Nobody does it better than Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. If you haven't done so already, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you check us out on all of our social media. Again, I cannot say it enough. When you are out there on your smartphone or your tablet or whatever it is you're doing, trust me, folks, you're out there, again, on any device. It takes 5 seconds. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. And also, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First as one of your favorites. And, of course, I can't say it enough, make sure you make this a part of your regular Monday night viewing every single Monday night here on Jersey First TV. And of course, folks, leading the way front and center, as always, Jersey First TV, advocating and educating the great residents here in the state of New Jersey. Folks, nobody does it better than the Jersey First Television Network. Brand new episodes of Real Talk air every Monday night live. Check your local listings for start times on all of your social media platforms. Folks, again, stick around for final thoughts. I'm going to have a lot to say about some of the usual clowns in New Jersey media, activism, elected officials, government employees, you name it. But really, folks, in the world of journalism, real journalists like myself don't take to very kindly when we see propagandists masquerading as journalists or paid agitators. And when we think about paid agitators and clowns, we think about Leonard Filipowski here in Hudson County, folks. I'm not going to refer to him by his stage name or his gimmick name. That's all it is. It's a gimmick. But thankfully, we got the good news last week that he was indicted in Essex County for assaulting a police officer last November at the Union City Board of Education. Folks, I'm going to tell you the truth about why this indictment is legitimate and why Leonard has a lot to worry about. And quite frankly, why he might be seeing some jail time. And he has no one to blame but himself. We'll talk about that during Final Thoughts. Folks, you definitely don't want to miss out on that for sure. And again, folks, we'll also have a special comment during the broadcast as well. You want to stick around for that also later on in the program. Folks, it is election season here in New Jersey, and I'm talking to candidates from all across the political aisles. Republicans, Democrats, Green Party, you name it. Folks, it's real talk and real journalism here every single week because it's real traffic as well. So I bring you that. I make it a point to talk to candidates from all across the political spectrum. And here, folks, in New Jersey, as you're well aware, all 12 congressional seats are up for grabs this year. Certainly, primary day is coming up on June 2nd. We have some competitive primaries in both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party throughout New Jersey. Let's talk about a very competitive primary race, and that's all the way down south in CD3. That's the 3rd Congressional District, all the way in Southwest New Jersey, for the most part, and we'll talk about the district itself in just a moment. But join us live tonight, folks. It's one of the candidates running in the 3rd Congressional District. His name is Jason Cullen, and he joins us live right now on Real Talk. Jason, welcome, sir.
Awesome. How are you, Fernando, man? Thanks for having me back on. I think, it was 2022, I think was the last time I was on with you.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, you stayed out there. You're still knocking on doors. You're being visible in the community. You're raising money, and that's all we would want, really, from candidates in any political cycle, right? And I think now in this specific election season, as polarizing as it's been, we have a really competitive race in CD3 to see who's going to challenge the incumbent, and that's U.S. Representative Herb Conway, and another corporate Democrat, in my opinion, to say the least. And we'll get to the incumbent in a minute. But folks, if you're not familiar with the 3rd Congressional District in New Jersey, brace yourselves here, folks. We're talking about 38 municipalities in Burlington County, which include Bass River Township, Beverly, Bordentown Township, Burlington Township, Chesterfield Township, Cinnamon Township, Delanco Township, Delran Township, East Hampton Township, Edgewater Park, Evesham Township, Fieldsboro, Florence Township, Hainsport Township, Lumberton, Mansfield, Medford Lakes, Medford, Morristown, Mount Holly, Mount Laurel, New Hanover, North Hanover. Let me catch my breath. Pemberton, Riverside, Riverton, Shamong, Southampton, Springfield, Tabernacle, Washington, West Hampton, Willenboro, Woodland Township, and Wrightstown. We have 5 municipalities in Mercer County, which include East Windsor, Hamilton Township, Hightstown, Lawrence Township, and Robbinsville Township. And folks, in Monmouth County, that consists of 10 municipalities. That's Allentown, Englishtown, Freehold Township. Part of the 4th district includes East Freehold and West Freehold, as well as Holmdel, Manalapan, Marlborough, Millstone, Roosevelt, and Upper Freehold Township. Wow. Okay. A lot of real estate to cover there in the 3rd Congressional District. Jason, you've been knocking on doors. You've been a guy who, has been consistent about it. Some people run once and just disappear into the political, as they say, exodus. Right. That has not been you. I mean, again, I've interviewed you before on this program. You're running in the 3rd Congressional District. It's a competitive primary. Let's start first and foremost. What makes you the best candidate as a Republican nominee, potentially in the 3rd Congressional District?
So what makes me, I feel like I'm the best candidate for one particular reason. So yes, we're a D+5 district, and I'm not even concerned about it because out of all the other districts, this is the only one that has more independent voters than there are Democrat voters. And I'm in a unique position where I'm able to get buy-in from independent and even moderate Democrat candidates. As you said, I've been on the show before. I had run in the past, and I ran third party. And throughout that time, what I was doing, I was engaging with those independent voters, those moderate Democrat voters. And what I found having those conversations with them, asking these open-ended questions, finding out what's really important to them, most of them really agree with some of the issues that we agree on. So it's really about being able to find out what those issues are and talking to them directly about those particular issues. I had a conversation just recently with a Democrat actually up in Mercer County. And, she was pretty far to the left. She was telling me what a great job Mondani was doing. But with the conversation we had, I found out that term limits, accountability, and the future for her grandchildren are what's important to her. So those are the things that we discussed, and we discussed them at length. At the end of this meeting with her, she said, if you get the nomination, I'm probably going to vote for you, not because I agree with everything that you stand for, but the things that we agree on, I trust you more that you'll actually do it for me than Herb Conway. So I think really that's what's going to set me apart, because when you look at what the Republicans in all these races are standing for and what we're running on, a lot of it's very similar issues. So what's really going to be the breakout to take advantage of the opportunity in this district is somebody who can get buy-in from people on the other side, from those independents and from those Democrats, at least the moderate Democrats.
And that's important because especially in a district like that, and again, New Jersey as a whole, though, Jason, I mean, we know that Democrats outnumber Republicans via registrations by a pretty considerable number. Certainly independents make up a big block, and those are the ones you have to try to win over every election cycle, no question. But especially in a district like CD3, as you mentioned, it's Democrat +5. I mean, again, you understand the work that's necessary there, and you're trying to win over, again, independents and maybe even some middle-of-the-road Democrats that maybe don't like how the incumbent is moving so far to the left. Again, looking to coddle illegals in this state. Being someone that isn't, cooperative at the federal about funding, vital agencies within the Department of Homeland Security, whether or not they're interested in where Medicaid dollars go to. I mean, these are all issues that I think even centrist Democrats and moderate Democrats in the district have to be upset with the incumbent, because he seems to be more interested in, cozying up to the progressive wing, which again, in fairness, I mean, it's growing and it's scary. We saw that just a couple of weeks ago during the special election in the 11th Congressional District, where, the downright socialist and progressive and New Jersey Working Families Party poster child won pretty decisively. Yeah. And it seems like many Democrats think that that's the winning formula. I would disagree. I mean, yes, New Jersey is a pretty solid blue state, but there are patches that are purple. There's some patches that are a little bit red. And when we think about the 3rd Congressional District, sure, Burlington County makes up a large portion of that district, obviously Monmouth and Mercer County, as I just mentioned, certainly are some towns there. But I refuse to believe that New Jersey is living in Burlington County, that in very many rural parts are embracing these far left policies and these progressive values that the incumbent is embracing. And I think, again, if anyone's vulnerable or ripe to get picked off in a season where, every pundit is saying, well, this is the Democrats' midterms to lose and Republicans are as vulnerable as ever. I mean, again, I think the incumbent's in a position to be kind of ripe to be picked off. Is that fair to say?
I agree 100%. And one of the biggest opportunities is that this is his first term, right? That's the time to knock these guys out. And when I'm talking to independents and I'm talking to some of these moderate Democrats, and even the ones that aren't that moderate, it's not so much that they're even voting for the Democrats, because you're right, they are going too far to the left, even for a lot of the Democrats. They're just voting against the Republicans. So we need to give them something to vote for. I think that's going to be a real important strategy going forward in this race, where outside of the party insiders and the committee people and the clubs, when I'm talking to people, whether even the Republicans, most people are under the thought of both parties suck, right? And I'll have that conversation with them. And I say, no, listen, you're right. Because listen, a lot of Republicans aren't doing what they should be doing either, right? I mean, look what's happening in the Senate right now. You have 85% of the country wants the SAFE Act passed, and they won't even do that. They won't even bring it to the floor. So I sympathize with these people and I empathize with them. But yeah, you're right. Both parties aren't working for this, for the people. But I'm somebody who's not a party guy, okay? I've always been for the people. And through the conversations I have with them, getting them to understand that I'm not running, okay, a vote for me is not a vote for the Republicans. I'm a Republican and I believe in Republican values, right? But what are those values? Small government, pro-liberty, less taxes. We all want a lot of the same things, but because of things that the media says about us, things that Democrat politicians say about us, a lot of these Democrats and independents have a certain mindset about us. And I need to clear that up with them. That's going to be a huge opportunity there. And the thing with the independents, being so many of them, it's not like when they switch to independent, they start voting independent, right? They still vote Republican or Democrat. So we need to also start targeting those independents that used to be Republicans, having conversations with them, finding out why they left the Republican Party, because these guys still are center right, but we haven't been giving them a candidate that excites them, somebody that they want to vote for. We send a lot of the same type of establishment candidates into these general elections, and they just don't want to come out for us at that point. And that's why these primaries are so important. This is an opportunity to get the right candidates for these right races. And this is the first year the county line is gone. So that means the people's choice has an opportunity to beat the establishment choice, but the people have to show up.
Folks, if you're just joining us live right now, it is 5:15 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is candidate Jason Cullen, who is running in the 3rd Congressional District, coming up in the Republican primary on Tuesday, June 2nd. Folks, again, it takes 5 seconds to help the show grow. Like, comment, and share on all of your social media platforms, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, of course, on all of our social media platforms here on Jersey First TV. Now, Jason, I have to sort of ask the question here because obviously it is a comparative primary. Once I published today that I was interviewing you, I got a few phone calls, a few messages from people. Hey, man, I hope you're fair with him. I hope you, and again, my answer is always like, when am I not fair with my guests? I mean, that's just, listen, last week I had a Green Party candidate for an hour and you couldn't find a guy who I diametrically am more opposed to on every policy position. But you would think that these are two guys having a beer at a local dive bar or a coffee at a Starbucks. I mean, it was calm. It was rational. Again, folks, besides being a journalist, I'm also an academic. I'm a policy nerd. So I want to talk policy with people. And when I talk to candidates, Jason, again, there are others in this field. I talked to other candidates in the field thus far, and certainly for their vision of what they are running this campaign on. And we saw what happened just a couple of weeks ago in the 11th Congressional District in that special election. Yes, it's a climate that's not very, receptive to Republicans right now. We saw in 2024 that New Jersey came within 5 points of flipping the state's 14 electoral votes for the first time since 1988 under George H.W. Bush. I mean, it was that long ago that Republicans have not been able to win, the electoral votes here in New Jersey. President Trump came within 5 points of doing that in New Jersey. Now, there are a lot of reasons that people said, well, Democrats stayed home. Kamala Harris was an awful candidate, which she was. People weren't energized, and that showed. Now, obviously, 1 year later, the president wasn't as popular as some people thought in New Jersey. Democrats weaponized everything from SNAP benefits to reproductive rights, you name it, and helped get Mikey Sherrill elected, not by a small margin, but by an overwhelming margin. And it seems like a lot of that anti-Trump, anti-Republican sentiment that was resonating a lot towards the end of last year seemed to have carried over into this year. We saw some special elections go the way of Democrats. We've also seen some Republicans win some special elections too. But a lot of people that talk to me say, man, it might be a bloodbath for Republicans this year. I disagree. I think Republicans, if they run on a good message, I think they can win. Now, obviously, in certain parts of the state, like I just mentioned, in the 11th congressional district, you have a lot of these, like, stroller moms, these Karens, these cat ladies. The most toxic demographic in our politics is white liberal women, and they came out in full force in CD11. But every district's different. And I think that in the 3rd congressional district, that's certainly not the demographic I think that's resonating there. But I think it's one that, yeah, sure, they might like the incumbent, but they may not like what the incumbent's doing in terms of moving so far to the left. You mentioned about reaching out to those. Do you think this climate is as dire as people are making it out to be for Republicans, where it's almost a bloodbath is coming?
I think it does depend on the area, to your point. Like, there's going to be some areas the demographics are just set up the way that they're going to be set up. But then there's districts like District 3, where if we have the right candidate with the right focus and the right message, I think we'll be able to overcome that. And I think we needed to make it more about, especially in my district, it's about the people, right? Because a lot of times, and it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, a lot of these guys, they're representing themselves. They represent foreign interests, special interests. They're representing other countries, illegals. People, even on the Democrat side, they feel like they're being left out by their own party. They're just so overwhelmingly voting against the Republicans, not so much that they're voting for the Democrats, especially when they're going this far to the left in a district like this. This is a pretty moderate district. It was Republican a few years back, just before Andy Kim had won his seat, before the redistricting. So there still are a lot of Republicans in the area, but a lot of them did turn independent. We need to find out why. We need to find those individuals, and we need to get them back.
Jason, let me ask you, influencer Mike Crispy, I'm sure you know that name.
Yes.
Here in New Jersey, wrote an interesting op-ed in the Washington Times. And it's gotten pretty good traction. And it would seem that here in New Jersey, it's sort of a delicate tightrope for some Republicans, where you want to embrace elements of the president of the United States right now. Obviously, the big, beautiful bill and what it did for taxes. Many New Jerseyans are reporting better tax returns because of, again, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and other dynamics that have made it much more beneficial for New Jersey taxpayers. But Democrats are really quick to weaponize it, whether it's like, well, we need to abolish ICE and other sort of far left woke nonsense that, quite frankly, doesn't resonate. Well, it may resonate well as it did in CD11. That might not be the case in CD3. I mean, I think voters in that district want law and order. I think they want to feel safe within their homes. They want to feel safe in their communities. And what we're seeing by many Democrats in New Jersey, especially, in the House, they're quick to embrace illegals. They would much rather spend our tax dollars to accommodate illegals as opposed to American citizens and, even residents per se, legal residents. But in CD3, what are you hearing from people you're talking to, whether you're knocking on doors, going to food truck festivals as the weather's getting nicer, whatever you want to call it? What are you hearing from residents in CD3 as it pertains to the optics about ICE, where some Democrats are weaponizing the quote hashtag abolish ICE, which we all know isn't feasible. It just isn't. That would require an entire overhaul of the agency and also the Department of Homeland Security. I mean, it's not just, we just get rid of an agency. It's not that simple. But what are you hearing from residents that maybe are concerned about ICE and some tactics? And again, let me be very fair. I've talked about it on the show with other candidates and electeds. Like, do ICE officers need more than 47 days training? Sure, I can admit that. Should they wear body cams? Absolutely. You're not going to hear a peep out of me. Should there be a revisiting of tactics? Certainly. You're not going to hear a peep out of me. But it's an agency that is crucial to enforcing federal immigration law, especially in a state like New Jersey, where the governor signed the Immigrant Trust Directive, which makes it even more difficult for law enforcement to work, or nearly impossible to work with federal law enforcement. So what are you hearing from residents that you're talking to in CD3 as it pertains to ICE, because that, again, is a big optic during this, I guess, election season.
So if I'm talking to independents or I'm talking to Democrats, they kind of contradict themselves when they're talking about this issue. A lot of them, they really don't want illegals here, right? And yes, they're leaning a little bit more towards, the criminals, as opposed to, the busboy at the restaurant that they go to. But they are talking about it where they don't want the illegals here. They want to focus on Americans, citizens first. At the same time, because the anti-Trump rhetoric is so much out there, they just immediately are going to believe everything they hear from the Democrats about what ICE is actually doing, right? They're believing all the propaganda about ICE. And I think we have to get better with our messaging and explain what ICE is actually doing. And to your point, talk to them about those things that you mentioned. Do they need more training? Yes, I definitely agree with the body cams. We can fill in those gaps with them where we do agree. But I think we have to also explain why it's important to have the illegals removed, right? Not just saying, hey, we just got to go throw everyone out of the country. Mass deportations is necessary, but I think we have to phrase it right. We have to give the why behind it. So affordability is the number one issue that everyone's talking about. Well, part of the reason we have this affordability crisis is because we had that rush at the border for 4 years under Biden, right? 20, 30 million people pouring into the country. Well, that put a lot of stress on all of our goods and services, sent the demand skyrocketing for everything, including housing. That's why rent is so high. That's why food is so high. That's why hospitals are expensive. We're paying for their hospital bills because they can't afford it. When I tie into America First with people, how I explain America First is America and Americans first. And when I tell these independents and I tell these Democrats, you're an American, I'm talking about you, taking care of you first. Because right now what the Democrats are doing, while you're struggling to put food on your table, while you're scared to touch the thermostat because of our utility bills, Herb Conway and the Democrats are voting to take money out of your pocket and give it to people who got here 5 minutes ago. That's not representing you. So when I say America First, I make sure they understand what I actually mean by that, where it's not just for white Republicans, it's for all Americans, and that includes them as well. So we need to get them to understand by explaining the why. Republicans are very good at talking about what. We got to get better talking about the why. People don't buy into what you're doing. They buy into why you're doing it. And I think we really have to get into that type of messaging with people.
Fair enough, folks. Again, if you just joined us live right now, it is 5:25 here on the East Coast. It takes 5 seconds to show your support for fearless independent journalism here on Real Talk, as my guest tonight is NJ CD-3 candidate Jason Cullen here on Real Talk. Folks, again, like, comment, and share. It helps the show grow and really helps the algorithm when it comes to Jersey First TV. Jason, back to the race here specifically here within the primary circles. And, a lot's been said about this field. It's kind of a crowded field. Some candidates are serious. Again, I'm not trying to be mean here to anybody, but the bottom line is that some candidates are running for the sake of running. If you're not raising money, if you're not even setting up an ELEC account, if you're not using social media, what are you doing? Right. And it would seem that this is a two-man race here in the 3rd Congressional District in the Republican primary. A lot's been made online. There's been a lot of fickle commentary by all sides, by people who are Republicans, some people who are operatives, maybe some county chairs. Let's sort of cut through all the bullshit here and get to the core of the matter here. It seems like there is not animosity, I think, between yourself and anybody else in the field, but quite frankly, it would appear that things have gotten a little fickle online about your candidacy, about some of your opponents in this field. Let's clear the air here when it comes to your candidacy and how you view the rest of the field.
Okay. Well, first I'd say what's interesting about this race, when you say competitive, this is really competitive because this is the first time that Burlington County and Monmouth County actually are split. So Burlington County endorsed me, Monmouth County endorsed Michael McGuire. So there's a big divide there, and you have two big political machines kind of going against each other right now. Look, we're not there, like you said, there's no animosity between us. Nothing's actually personal between us. We've had some passive aggressive swipes at each other, and we've had some conversations offline to try to really minimize that as much as possible so we can make this race about our ideas. Listen, we're going to have people that happen to support me or support him or maybe support the other candidate, Justin Barbera, who are going to say something online. It's always going to happen. We're just trying to make sure out of our own campaigns, out of our own mouths, we're not really attacking each other very much. We're trying to stay focused on our own campaigns, our own races, our own messaging.
And so, listen, you brought up the point before that without county lines, I mean, this is what really makes these primaries so interesting
Yes.
and ultimately so competitive. I mean, obviously, for years, both Republicans and Democrats throughout the state, some establishment people relied on the county line. And they thought, well, if I get that, then it's almost smooth sailing. That's not the case anymore. People are going to have to work. People have to knock on doors. People are going to have to fundraise. People are going to have to use social media and be, creative about it and also be effective. When we talk about, this race, and again, running as a Republican, it's a tough climate to be running as a Republican. It depends on what part of the country you're in. If you're in Florida or Texas, it's very different being a Republican there than it is in New Jersey. Listen, take it from me, being a conservative and one of the few conservative podcasters that's actually doing real, traffic here in New Jersey. Listen, I get scorned all the time. I mean, I go to political events up and down this state, and it's nice to walk in somewhere and be recognized, and you don't have to introduce yourself anymore, which is nice. But the bottom line is that at the end of the day, I go to a lot of, where I live in Hudson County. I mean, listen, man, it's as blue as Windex. It's as blue as the logo behind you, and your name there right in the background. But I walk in wherever I want, and I'm respected. I'm disliked, but I'm respected in the sense of what my show represents. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're looking at a climate where it isn't very favorable for Republicans. It's like the second time now during the second Trump term. We saw what happened in 2018. We saw a big overhaul of Democrats winning the House, not necessarily the Senate, but winning the House. Some prognosticators, not necessarily betting apps. I don't like to go by Polymarket or whatever, FanDuel and all these betting apps that talk about Democrats maybe winning the House. I don't see that. I still think that Democrats have some work to do, especially if, listen, here in New York and New Jersey, you want to try to push far left progressive. That's great. That's not always the case across the country, even in purple areas of the state. But here in New Jersey, I really look at CD3 as a winnable district for whoever the Republican is going to be, because at the end of the day, the incumbent doesn't have a good record to run on. He's one of those entrenched lifelong electeds. He was entrenched since like the end of like the Clinton administration. I mean, we're going far back. I mean,
3 decades.
Listen, yeah. I mean, as far back as my Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's how far back he's been. Okay. And when you think about a poster child for like being in government way too long, that's who I think of. I think of the incumbent right now in the 3rd Congressional District. Is that a talking point that you think is resonating with people when you talk to them during this cycle?
It is, because most people didn't even realize that he had been in the state legislature for 3 decades. They just thought, oh, he's a one-term congressman. He must not have been around very long. So they're thinking he's not this entrenched politician. So I'm trying to point out to them 3 decades of making life in New Jersey unaffordable while he's actually running on affordability. He's done nothing to lower the cost in New Jersey, to cut taxes, to cut spending, to make your life easier for 3 decades. And you can't blame Donald Trump for that. Donald Trump hasn't been around for 3 decades. He's not the president of New Jersey. So opening up people's eyes to his record. And honestly, outside of the establishment on the left, he doesn't even have a lot of name ID because he is that one-term congressman. So that's the opportunity right there. That's when we can knock this guy out, having only 1 term in. Look, he's the weakest Democrat running in New Jersey, and he's the least funded Democrat in New Jersey as well. So we got a real good opportunity here. We just got to get the right candidate, right message, and get those independent voters.
No, absolutely. Now let's get into the crux of, should you be successful coming up in June and then subsequently defeat the incumbent in November, you would take office in January. Again, might be a possibility, maybe a slim Democrat majority, might be still a slim Republican majority. Regardless, what do you want to tackle first as the representative in the 3rd Congressional District? Is it infrastructure? Is it affordability? Is it funding certain agencies? What would you want to tackle should you get to Washington in January, Jason?
I just got to pick just one.
Well,
all right, so, look, I think term limits would solve a lot of problems. And, that's got to be done through a constitutional amendment. And we need to come up with a proposal that Congress would actually pass, right? And everyone thinks about it. They're obviously not going to vote themselves out of a job, right? So we would have to find something that doesn't affect them. So I actually looked at the 22nd Amendment and see what they did there. They used a grandfather clause with the president. So whoever was in the seat at the time it was passed they were grandfathered into that seat. It didn't become term limited until the seat was vacated. So if we can apply that same process to Congress, think about it. Fine, you want to die in there, fine. You retire, you die, you lose your seat. That seat now becomes term limited. So we would actually phase in term limits over time, which is probably the really way you'd have to do that anyway. It would be mass chaos if we just lost 85, 90% of Congress overnight, as cool as it sounds. You would lose a lot of the institutional knowledge. You'd have a lot of freshman congressmen running committees that don't know what they're doing. And you think, unelected bureaucrats are running Washington now, they'd be taking over the entire place. So it would have to be phased in like that. And the reason I think they might go for something like that is because it doesn't affect them. And if we can get term limits, and these guys are not there forever, and they have to leave, and they have to come back and live under the laws and the rules they're putting on us, I think it's going to change how they vote. So I think that's one of the major things that we really, really need to change in Washington, and we got to do it quick.
No, great answer on that one for sure. In addition, though, when we talk about infrastructure, and obviously New Jersey always comes up in the discussion, whether up here north by me, the Gateway Tunnel project, but overall throughout New Jersey. Listen, I talk about it all the time. Our roads suck. Trenton implemented under Governor Christie and the legislature in Trenton, a gas tax that supposedly is supposed to go into the Transportation Trust Fund and supposedly is supposed to improve road quality. Now, folks, if you're not aware of this, AAA is a nonprofit organization that among one of the things that they study is road quality. And New Jersey, to no one's surprise, is in the bottom third of road quality in these United States. Now, again, that's a state legislative issue, but at the federal level, I mean, we're seeing that whether it's, fuel, whether it's energy projects, whether it's infrastructure in general, Jason, what would you like to tackle in CD3 when it comes to infrastructure? Because I'm sure residents have concerns about that. They have concerns about what's going to be happening on roads within Burlington, Monmouth, and Mercer counties collectively. What do you think are some good solutions that you would like to propose should you be in the office?
All right, so I got two things come to mind immediately. Number one is I want to end foreign aid. Think about all the money we're sending overseas to every other country on the planet, whether it's infrastructure here or just taking care of our own people. I want to keep American tax dollars in America to help Americans, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's our veterans. And the fraud, if we can get rid of this fraud and actually spend only out of this $40 trillion in debt we have, how much do you think that's actually fraud, right? Probably most of it, to be honest. I was looking at Minnesota when this whole thing first popped over there, and it was $9 billion at first. And I was just curious what we could use that $9 billion for if it didn't go to fraud. I was curious. I did the math. How many years could we take care of and house every homeless veteran in this country for $9 billion? 14 and a half years. All this money that's being wasted, that's being defrauded, that's being sent overseas, we could fix so many problems in this country. And I think that we need to make sure we're electing people that not just understand that and can see that. 'Cause I think there's folks in Washington and there's people that are running for office now that they would understand that, but they don't have the will to do anything about it. I do, and I would fight for that, and I'll try to get buy-in from other members of Congress as well, so we can start to do those things that we can keep American tax dollars here to help Americans every day.
Another big dynamic about the federal legislature, Jason, that I'm always concerned about is the amount of Medicaid dollars that come from Washington back into New Jersey. And obviously here in New Jersey, and again, if you're not familiar with this, I'm not trying to have a civics class here, but these are the facts. And again, Jason, you can correct me anytime I'm wrong with the way I'm disseminating facts here. But what New Jersey does, like other blue states do, is they take Medicaid dollars. And while illegals aren't receiving Medicaid directly, that's true, they're not. So I get sometimes hyperpartisans will use that as a talking point. That's just not true. Illegals are not directly receiving Medicaid. But what New Jersey does in a very crafty sort of way is they take Medicaid dollars from Washington and they reappropriate it into what's called NJ Family Care. Now, this is the fund here in New Jersey that allows low-income families and residents to apply for health care. And in many instances, even illegals are eligible because they're not asking for documentation. They're not asking for your immigration status. So therefore, NJ Family Care helps provide health care for illegals. And in many instances, illegals here with anchor babies that they had here on American soil, and thus far, a big burden onto New Jersey taxpayers. Now, case in point, I just had State Assemblyman Paul Knitra on the show just a few weeks ago down from Monmouth County. And Assemblyman Knitra's report just a couple of years ago documented that at the minimum, then we'll be conservative here, that $7 billion of the state budget goes into coddling and providing for illegals here in New Jersey. Now, at the federal level, Jason, should you be successful in going to Washington and taking the oath of office in January, what do you want to do to combat really the dollars that come back to New Jersey from the federal level in the sense of how we coddle illegals here in the Garden State?
Well, first, I want to say I'm glad you explained it the way you did, because you're right. And anytime somebody on our side just says, "Oh, illegals are getting it,"
no, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry, and that's not true, and that's what bothers me. I think about as a conservative, it's like we're going to win with ideas, but we have to make sure that we know what we're talking about. And when we don't, and I get, listen, it's an emotional issue. Listen, I'm the son of immigrants. I get it. My parents came here legally decades ago. They did it the right way. But it doesn't make my family racist or me racist when I see that illegals are coming here, especially what we saw during the 4 years of the Biden administration with a wide open border. And that 11 million is probably a conservative number. It was probably more. And that's a big burden on our emergency rooms. Listen, I work in education. I'm not Stephen A. Smith where I'm going to tell you like, well, I literally know thousands of teachers in New Jersey. Like I'm not bullshitting here, folks, that work in school districts all across New Jersey. And overcrowding in our public schools is a serious problem. A large portion of that, obviously, is because of illegals and the anchor babies they're having here. Not just that, but the quality of life in our communities, real estate, housing. I mean, illegals are causing an enormous financial burden onto the state. So when I talk about, illegals are getting healthcare, that's a big chunk of federal dollars coming from Washington back into New Jersey. And if you're the congressperson and the member of the House of Representatives, you want responsible people saying, hey, we want our federal tax dollars being used responsibly. The incumbent is not doing that. So I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. But thank you for the explanation. I think people needed to hear that. So what people also understand, money is fungible, right? So it's all going into one pool. That's like taking water out from the left side of a pool and saying it's not the same as the water from the right side of the pool. It's the same money, right? That's what Planned Parenthood does when they say, well, the taxpayer money doesn't go towards abortion. Well, it's all coming from the same pool of money. So we need to actually have accountability of every dollar that's sent out of Washington, whether it's to the states for healthcare, whether it is in foreign aid, which I do want to get rid of. But we don't have any accountability. In Washington, they're just throwing money everywhere. They're not tracking where it's going. That's the main thing that needs to get done immediately. We need to take a step back, stop everything. We need to shut everything off. Look at what we're doing, how we're giving this money out, and really identify where it's going. And if we do actually end up with the mass deportations and we are removing people that shouldn't be here, that clears up that problem.
Jason, it seems like during this election cycle, and not just in New Jersey, but Democrats think that they can weaponize hashtags like they have in the past. We saw that during the summer of looting and vandalizing and rioting during 2020, when we saw, everyday Americans, crying tears for a career criminal, and we saw the impact it did to our communities. And 6 years later, we're seeing some Democrats, far left Democrats, think that, it's a good message to just say, abolish ICE, abolish ICE. Well, folks, again, not to engage in a civics lesson, but here are the facts. Okay, and this is where Professor Uribe is going to put on his educational hat here for everybody at home. ICE is known as Immigration Customs Enforcement. They're an agency that was reorganized under the Department of Homeland Security Act, which was signed into law in 2003 during the Bush administration, some 2 years after the attacks by Muslim extremists on September 11, 2001. Therefore, the federal government felt the need to reorganize various agencies. For decades, we know that immigration was under the Immigration Naturalization Service, INS. It got reorganized into Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is not just enforcing federal immigration law, but addressing human trafficking and other federal crimes. So when I see Democrats, Jason, such as the incumbent running in CD3, as well as other Democrats talking about, well, we need to abolish ICE, well, we know it's a bullshit narrative because, number one, what agency, and I've asked people on the far left, and I've asked progressives on this show, okay, cool, that's great, that's a great hashtag, okay, awesome, educate me here. What agency are you going to want to suggest be put in charge of enforcing federal immigration law, because ICE falls under DHS, which falls under the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, who reports to the executive branch, which is the President of the United States. Everybody following along at home, kids? I hope so. So when I hear this mantra about abolish ICE, that's not realistic, Jason. But for the sake of argument, yes, we do need some reforms. There's no question. But it just seems like whether it's the establishment media or in general, Democrats and the far left progressives are just being allowed to sort of run with this talking point, and it just isn't realistic.
It's not. And we have to do a better job of stop allowing them to control language. Because when they start controlling language, they control how we see reality. That's something they're really, really good at. And that's something we got to get a lot better at. We have to call things what they are. And to your point about hashtags and these little one-liners, they use them because they work. Okay. We're in an information age where people's attention spans are a lot shorter now. So we need to communicate in the same way that they are as well. We can't always give information overload. We should always have the facts on our side and be able to answer questions. But I think we need to change how we're having those conversations. I was with some local candidates in Burlington County over the weekend, and we were discussing some messaging, and something had come up about this simple messaging where the Democrats, and it was a gift that they gave us when they defund the police, right? So we were able to talk to that. Well, they were having issues with trying to explain to people about how the school funding formula works, right? And it's very complicated, right? So money's coming in, you're raising your taxes in your local town, but it's really going to other schools, right? It's going to Newark, it's going to Patterson. It's not helping out your child's schools. What we were discussing doing is having something simple that the Democrats use. Democrats are defunding schools. We don't have to go any further than that. That's what people are listening to. That's what's grabbing their attention. And that could at least then open them up to having a conversation with you to get a little bit more information about it. But we have to stop allowing them to control the language. We have to take control over it.
Jason, are you amenable to a debate with other members of the field in the Republican primary right now, leading up to June 2nd?
Absolutely. I think it's great. It gives the voters an opportunity to really see their choices, to see who they might align better with. Again, there's going to be a lot of issues that we're going to be pretty similar on because we're both Republicans, but people really get to see where those differences are, right? We might have some different policy prescriptions that might align with one voter better, but if they're not seeing us together, they're not going to get an opportunity to see that. So, I would definitely love the opportunity to do that.
A few weeks ago, I had the new chair of the NJ GOP on, and listen, I do not envy Christine Hanlon at all. She's a stand-up lady, strong lady, convictions, and certainly has a tough job ahead of her when it comes to trying to revitalize a Republican Party in New Jersey that, quite frankly, and for any pro wrestling fans, maybe you'll appreciate the usage of these terms, but the Republican Party was given every finisher under the sun and annihilated last November. Republicans not just only lost legislative seats in Trenton, but not just losing, which again, there was a possibility of losing the gubernatorial race, certainly, because again, Democrats outnumber Republicans, got long registration lines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but not to the extent that we saw last November. Obviously, I've discussed this, and not to sort of Monday morning quarterback this again, but I talked to journalists after the election, whether it was David Wildstein, the editor of the New Jersey Globe, Brent Johnson from NJ Media, and others. And I felt that after Labor Day, I felt the Republican had a chance. I felt like, this is going to be a close race, 2 or 3 points, just like it was in 2021. And some optics got in the way. Government shutdown. Democrats were able to weaponize SNAP benefits. Oh, we're going to deny poor people food. And, reproductive rights, which is bullshit because it's been codified. But the point was that Democrats were able to weaponize everything under the sun, and it worked. And Mikey Sherrill won by a very decisive margin. Now, again, some 100 days into her administration, we can sort of debate what grade we give her. Not a good one thus far, since energy prices are still skyrocketing. Yes, we want to lower the budget, but we introduced a higher number of the budget. Tell me how that makes sense. But the bottom, and of course, coddling illegals, suing the president and the Trump, the rest of the administration doesn't seem to make sense when New Jerseyans are trying to figure out how to afford living here. But the bottom line is that the new chair of the NJ GOP has a tough task ahead of her, trying to help candidates, not just all 12 Republicans running during this congressional races, But obviously during the U.S. Senate race, which, I mean, if there's a senator that needs to be removed from Washington, it's Spartacus. I mean, it's like the Timu Obama on steroids, basically. But have you had talks with the new chair? Have you felt that the NJGOP, now again, it's a primary, so they're not going to go out of their way to really choose sides here or take favorites. But what are you hearing from any conversations you've had with the NJGOP about your candidacy and how viable it is?
So I haven't spoken with Christine Hanlon. Again, she's just stepping into the role, right? So I know, and she's got a lot on her plate, because your point, I like that analogy. They pretty much just got hit with every single finisher. So she's got a lot of work right now. I know she's really busy. And again, usually the NJGOP doesn't typically get involved in the primaries, which is understandable. Now, I like your idea about having the debates. It's going to get, not just so people can see the differences between the candidates, but actually giving the candidates more exposure. When I'm looking through social media and I hear people talking, and especially with the Senate race more than any other race, a lot of the comments are, I have no idea who these people are. And it's been a challenge. Look, I mean, even fundraising, and that's part of the problem with having all that exposure without the fundraising this year. And in New Jersey, it's especially bad. New Jersey, New York, and Virginia, because of the races last year. But even nationally right now, it's really bad on the Republican side. So it's hard without having all that money to have that exposure. So by you doing things like that and having debates and having all the candidates on, I mean, that's what's really going to help us get that exposure. People can see us, get to know us. Otherwise, it's been a challenge. And I see the frustration online when I'm looking through the comments, and people are like, I wish I knew who these people were. They didn't even hear the name until they happened to see that, that tweet on X or a post on Facebook.
Now, your E-League report is pretty good from what I saw. I know you made it a point to publish that last week. What's been the secret to your success when it comes to fundraising? Because as you mentioned, it is a tough climate for Republicans here in New Jersey. But what's been thus far for you the winning formula in getting as many donations as you have?
Nonstop emails and phone calls. Really, that's what it's been. And listen, we have to call people outside of New Jersey. Folks in New Jersey right now, they're hesitant to invest in New Jersey because of what we just happened. I mean, Jack raised a lot of money and he lost by 14 points. So people are a little bit discouraged right now, but we just have to keep calling and calling and calling. And listen, a lot of people aren't answering the phone. You're leaving a lot of voicemails. Some people that do answer the phone are yelling at you. I mean, they're fed up with the Republican Party, period. But it's about just being persistent and just finding those folks who might be willing to listen. So you can give them the pitch. You can explain why they should invest in your campaign, why this is a winnable district. It's just a lot of grit, a lot of determination, and you have to pour a lot of time. Anytime if I'm not working or I'm not at an event, I'm on the phone trying to call donors. You have to be relentless.
It's a political season, though, Jason, where, and again, I referenced influencer Mike Crispy before with his editorial with the Washington Times, where he's pretty much almost put a line in the sand for Republicans in New Jersey. It's either run with the president or run away from it and at your own peril. But again, I don't know if it's that simple, where it's like sort of like the absolutist type of mentality. Again, nothing against Mike. I know Mike, we're friends, and but again, on this show, I'm here about calling balls and strikes here, fairly on this program. When we look at CD3, we look at it as a district that was Republican a few cycles ago.
Yeah.
And obviously we saw then then candidate Andy Kim come into the scene and win that district pretty decisively. Obviously, we've seen what he's gone on to do, becoming the junior U.S. Senator here in New Jersey. But the bottom line is that it's not like this is decades and decades ago where Republicans had a foothold in it. It's just a few cycles. So do you feel optimistic that even some Republicans that maybe have not had the desire to vote, that maybe have just been dormant, do you feel confident you can access that vote? Again, should you be successful on June 2nd, moving throughout the summer and going into the fall, do you feel confident that you can access those dormant voters, but more so also the independent voters, which again are crucial during every cycle?
Absolutely. And I could kind of answer both with the same thing. A lot of what I'm talking, or actually almost all of what I'm talking about, I'm sure you've seen some of the videos I'm putting out there. I'm talking about the issues that everybody is upset about. It doesn't matter what letters in front of your name. And that's what's bringing the excitement from the other side, from the moderate Democrats, from the independents, because I'm not just up here just talking Republican talking points, just the issues that are important to us. I'm talking about what's important to everybody. And that's what's getting that excitement. So if I'm talking about accountability, That's for both sides. When I'm talking to Democrats, I'm talking to independents. They want accountability on the Democrats as well. It's not just Republicans. When I talk about affordability, that affects everybody, no matter what letters in front of your name. I think that's going to be the key there, is to really be able to relate with people on a personal level, right? So I'm not, again, I would almost say it's not voting for me, it's not voting for the Republican Party. You're voting for Jason Cullen. I'm going to make this race, if I'm the nominee, Jason Cullen versus Herb Conway. This isn't about the parties. This is about the people. And that's what's been getting excitement from people. That's what's getting people really engaged when I'm having conversations with them, where I'm not talking about the parties. And honestly, when I'm talking to someone, most of the time, both parties suck. We got to blow everything up. And I don't just try to then, no, and I'm going to sell you on the Republicans. Like, you're right. The Republican Party has failed in a lot of respects. So I empathize with them. And then that brings them in to have a real good, honest conversation. And that's where I talk about what's important to them. And, again, I'm running on the issues that's important to them too. It's not just the Republican issues. And the big things, it's affordability and accountability. And that's the top two issues on everyone's mind out there.
Another big issue during this cycle, Jason, has been about foreign policy. And certainly it depends on what circles you read in. The president's military actions with Iran have not been viewed very favorably, even by some within his own party. Here in New Jersey, obviously, whether it's about affordability, whether it's about how to view ICE, whether it's about taxes, whether it's about, whether the big, beautiful bill really is working for New Jerseyans or it isn't. But we know that foreign policy is a big dynamic. And obviously, Congress has a lot to do with that when it comes to, declarations of war and things of that nature. And we know that it's become a big talking point during election cycles. What can the president and the executive branch do when it comes to military operations? Are you hearing from residents during the cycle in CD3 about whether or not the military actions in Iran are as unpopular as, let's say, the establishment media is making it out to be? Are residents more concerned about what's going on in Gaza? We know that for some Democrats, they're sort of going in hard on that. What are you hearing from residents you're talking to, again, during this campaign season?
So I'm even hearing from Republicans, yes, what the mainstream media is saying. I mean, yesterday I was knocking on doors in Homedale, and the Iran war didn't come up a lot, but it did come up, and people were upset. They don't want to be over there right now. And for some people, even Republicans, are saying, "Oh, it was illegal. It's illegal." Yes, Congress does have to declare war, but Congress did also pass the War Powers Act, so there's some leeway there for what President Trump did. But for an all-out war, yes, Congress needs to vote on that, to declare war. But that even comes back down to affordability. We're spending $1 billion a day on this foreign war, and that's what people are really upset about. We have struggling families here. We have people that are having trouble putting food on the table. Again, they don't want to touch the thermostat because the utility bills in New Jersey are out of control. They don't want to hear, okay, more money is going overseas, more money out of my pocket, whether it's foreign aid, it's a foreign war. People in this district, when I'm talking to them, and again, right now, who am I really talking to? It's Republican primary voters. So those are Republicans that are really tuned in. And most of them, they're not happy with it at all. They really don't want to be there. They want the focus to be on the U.S. domestic economy.
Getting back to the economy here, Jason, again, should you be successful coming up in June during the primary and then subsequently unseat the incumbent in November and take office in January, what are some realistic policy proposals that you feel confident you can introduce in the House of Representatives when it comes to the economy, when it comes to whether it's the job market, whether it's about AI and some of the dangers that AI is now posing to the job market? We're seeing, listen, just last night, I was watching the New Jersey Globe debate that they were hosting down at Rider University for CD-12 candidates. And of course, I mean, these are 9 Democrats, ranging from everything from moderate Democrats to far left, crazy progressives. And one of the big topics that was discussed last night, as it is in every congressional district, is the impact of AI right now on the job market. What's realistic for a member of the House to introduce when it comes to legislation about tackling AI, because it's here to stay?
It is. It's not going anywhere. And it's a scary time because you can think about a lot of jobs that are going to be gone because of AI. But we also have to then think about what new jobs are going to be over the horizon because of AI. So it's a challenge, but it is really scary. And I mean, we're having a conversation about this just a few days ago with my wife and some of her family members. all the jobs that probably could get replaced by AI that maybe we weren't even thinking about. I mean, that AI could replace teachers, right? I don't know what the answer is just yet, honestly. It's something I got to dive into, put some serious thought into, because it is a little scary. But to your point, I mean, AI is here. It's here to stay. So we're going to have to find ways to make shifts in the economy and see what kind of new jobs and new careers are going to be open to that. But you mentioned something earlier that I want to touch on when you talked about the economy and what we could do here. The biggest, I guess, the main reason for an affordability crisis, for the cost of living being so out of high, is the reckless printing of money in Washington. I know that's not a sexy campaign issue to talk about, but they've been printing trillions of dollars out of thin air, completely devaluing our currency. So the dollars that are in our bank accounts are worth less and less year over year. So yes, as costs inevitably rise, our purchasing power is declining rapidly. And then we had the illegals coming in. I think it's more. I think you're right. It could be 20 million, could have been 30 million, who knows? Putting a strain on every sector of the economy, driving that demand up, which really shot up costs as the value of our money was declining. So we need to shut the printing press off. During the 4 years of the Biden administration, not just having that open border, I don't know if you're aware of this, half of all of the currency that was in circulation in the country at the time was printed in just those 4 years. Imagine what that did to the value of the money in your bank account.
My goodness.
Your 401k. So that's the first thing we got to do is shut off the damn printing press. Next, we have to audit the Federal Reserve, and we have to dramatically cut spending. In a perfect world, I would love to get Congress back to the enumerated powers, only spending on what's authorized in the Constitution. Congress is spending money like it's going out of style on things they have no business and no authority to spend on. And then we're borrowing money we don't have. We're sending tens of billions of dollars overseas. All of those things combined need to happen, or we're never going to get out of an affordable. It's going to continue to get worse. So we need to start electing people that understand why we're in the situation that we're in. If you don't understand the problem, you're not going to be able to solve the problem.
All right. Well said there, folks. It's 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. Exactly. If you just joined us live right now, folks, like, comment, and share tonight's episode here on the program. My guest is Jason Cullen, running in the 3rd Congressional District during the upcoming primary coming up on June 2nd for the Republican Party. Jason, we've gotten to know you, the candidate. We've gotten to know the guy that's running for office once again. But let's have a quick lightning round of just Jason Cullen, the guy, the Jersey guy, as they say.
Absolutely.
And let's get to know Jason for everyone that maybe is just learning about you for the very first time here tonight on the program. And folks, like, comment, and share tonight's episode here once again with NJ CD-3 candidate Jason Cullen, my guest here tonight on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. So quick lightning round. Let's go. Jason, favorite MLB team?
Yankees.
Okay. Favorite Yankee of all time?
Derek Jeter.
Okay. Very nice. NFL team?
Giants.
Okay. Favorite Giant all time?
I don't know if I have a favorite.
Okay. How'd you feel about the draft last week for the New York Football Giants?
I got to be honest. I didn't see it. I was knocking on doors. I'm making calls. I'm out campaigning so much. I'm so out of the loop.
Okay. Listen, I'm a Cowboy fan, as you see on my social media.
Yes.
Great draft. I like our chances. We'll see if we stay healthy. We'll make some noise in the NFC East. We'll see. It's always a competitive division with the Giants, Redskins, the Cowboys, and that disgusting team down in Pennsylvania, down there in South Pennsylvania, if you know what I mean, folks. For everybody at home, NBA and NHL teams.
I'm not a big basketball fan. NHL, I used to watch it religiously. I was a big Rangers fan. Sorry.
Okay. College basketball, your alma mater. What is it? Do you follow?
I don't follow college basketball, but my alma mater is William Patterson University up in Wayne.
Okay, interesting. Okay, very nice. Not to put you on the spot here, but obviously it's a very big district. It's a lot of municipalities, but favorite cuisine and maybe favorite venue to visit when you're hungry?
I love a good steak. I'm on the carnivore diet, so
Okay.
I like to find different steakhouses to find the best, juiciest steak that I could find. Roost Chris Steakhouse is fantastic. Of course, that's probably my favorite.
Okay. Not to put you on the spot there, but any specific restaurant that you really, really, really like in CD3?
I don't know if I have don't have a favorite. We try to bounce around from restaurant to restaurant.
It might get you in trouble. So I mean, that's a good answer not to have one. You know what I'm saying? So I get you.
Yeah, no, it is because like we don't really go to the same place every time. My wife and I are kind of foodies, so we like to kind of
Sure.
travel and we try this restaurant and that restaurant and that restaurant, trying to get all these new experiences.
Okay. Not sure if you grew up reading comic books like I did, but MCU or DCU fan?
DCU. I was always a big Superman fan. I know a lot of people say he's boring because he's just so powerful, but I've just always been a Superman fan.
Okay. Listen, I'm a big DC fan. Batman's forever my favorite comic book character. But let me ask you, because I know that last summer, certainly James Gunn, reinvented Superman. And, for someone like myself and, even having conversations with my dad, grew up on watching Christopher Reeve and Gene Hackman, right? And a very different version of Superman and Lex Luthor. And certainly what we saw was a new vision by James Gunn, a vision that, quite frankly, isn't designed for someone like myself or my dad who grew up in a different time. There's more marketability. I was talking to my dad, and my dad's like, what's this bullshit about Superman having a dog? That's not true. I'm like, no, Dad, if you read the comics, crypto was, like, that's true. Like, that exists. Like, that's a big part of Superman's dynamic from the comic book. Same thing with Mr. Terrific. I mean, I get it that when there are reinventions of characters when it comes to comic books and comic book movies, older fans may not take well with the new vision. But I think that James Gunn did a nice job with this Superman. I mean, I didn't really like seeing him get his ass kicked for a big part of the movie because it's Superman, like you said.
Right.
But I really did like I liked the script. I did like the character development. Sure, listen, should Lex Luthor be as young looking as Superman? No, it should be a little bit older. But I mean, that's me splitting hairs because, again, I'm one of those comic book, aficionados. But certainly we're hearing that the sequel, Man of Tomorrow, will include Brainiac, which we've never seen,
That's exciting.
in movies. So I think that'll be a great adaptation for the character. Obviously, we'll see the return of Lex Luthor in the new one. But again, I watched it in the theater with my friends. I walked out of there like the first hour kind of dragged, but it picked up and I liked it. I watched it again. I'm a fan. I'm fine with it. What do you think of the new Superman?
It's worth watching. It definitely wasn't my favorite. I liked it better than with Superman Returns. That one I wasn't really a big fan of. But
Okay.
my favorite Superman story of all time is Smallville. I don't know. Did you watch that?
Yep. I remember watching the series. Yeah, no, great series. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually watched it with my mother, and then once we had kids and they were old enough, and they were into it as well. We actually watched it through twice with them as well. They absolutely
Okay.
that's hands down favorite Lex Luthor.
Now I know you like DC, but do you like Marvel as well? I mean, I'm assuming you'll watch Marvel movies too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen every single one. A few of the shows we haven't seen, but every single one of them. We're looking forward to Doomsday.
Oh, well, listen, I got to tell you, if you haven't watched Daredevil on Disney,
Haven't yet.
I'll go on record. It is the best
Really?
Marvel television series that's ever been produced. And we've had some good ones. Falcon Winter Soldier, some other ones, but I'm talking about when we talk about the authenticity of the character. If you've read Daredevil comics and you've watched it before, this is by far the best. If you haven't watched this, and I know you're campaigning, I know you may not have time for it, but it is by far the best Marvel television series that they've ever produced. I mean, without question. And you would think it's on Disney, but man, you want to talk about graphic,
Really?
and you want to talk about, as wild as it could be. You don't expect that out of a Disney series.
Right.
You expect that out of Daredevil. So I'm looking forward to Doomsday. Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom. I think it's a great adaptation of a different character.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Spider-Man in June coming up, and I'm also looking forward to Avengers Doomsday later on this fall for sure. Last one here. Favorite American president, least favorite American president, and why?
Calvin Coolidge.
Okay.
President. I know it's probably not an answer you get all the time. He left us alone. He understood government's role, and it wasn't to control every aspect of our life. Worst president is Biden. He did more damage to this country than anyone could have possibly imagined. With that open border, with the printing of money, destroying the value of our dollar, flooding our country with illegals, it's not just people looking for a better life, gang members coming over, rapists, child trafficking. Biden absolutely destroyed this country. I would take Barack Obama again any day over Biden.
Oh wow! Oh, wow! That's a okay, interesting. Yeah. Listen, I would tend to agree with you. I think these 4 years of Joe Biden were catastrophic, not just from a geopolitical perspective, in terms of you want to talk about funneling money overseas to pointless wars. I mean, we saw that with Ukraine. Um, obviously a wide open border, policies that were just domestically were just abject failures. So I mean, again, um, we dodged quite a bullet with Joe Biden not getting, deciding not to run for reelection, with Kamala Harris doing as poorly as she did, and we really, really lucked out, with the reelection of Donald Trump in 2024, and subsequently, three assassination attempts later, he's still here, and he's still, by the grace of God. I think God wants this country to heal and improve, and there's no question about that. But yes, Joe Biden, the most disastrous presidency in my adult life. And that's saying something because, we lived through, I was too young to remember Jimmy Carter, but I've read about him. Yeah. I've seen YouTube videos about what a disaster Jimmy Carter was. But my goodness, yes, Joe Biden, without question, my adult life, you can't beat that disaster. You would hope that nobody even tries to.
No, I don't know if you can even do that on purpose.
Yeah. And now we've learned that he was not conscious for a majority of his term. So who knows who was running the country during those 4 years. But Jason, before I let you go, I want to thank you for your time coming on here. I really am grateful for your belief in my brand of journalism. That's not everybody's cup of tea or brand of vodka, but it gets traffic, it gets conversations going, and I appreciate your faith in my brand of journalism. Wanting to come on here, talk about your candidacy, talk about policy, and talk about a platform that should resonate with everybody in the 3rd Congressional District. I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
All right, guys, listen, thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. Please share it with all your friends. You got to get everyone to subscribe to Fernando. I do subscribe to this brand of journalism. I mean, Fernando talks to everybody and talks to everybody the same way, gives everyone the same equal opportunity, which is great for the voters. That's what's really important, for people to see who their candidates are, who their choices are. So I applaud you for that awesome job. Looking forward to coming back again. Love to do that debate if McGuire's on board. I think he will be. And guys, if just check out the website, cullenforcongress.com with the number 4, and find me on social media. And looking forward to just getting out there and meeting as many people as I can.
Listen, Jason, again, best of luck to you. I appreciate you dedicating a few minutes of your valuable time here. I know you want to get back out there, knock on doors, phone bank, whatever it is you're doing during this election cycle. Obviously, I know you want to get back to it. I appreciate you dedicating some time here tonight to the program. Really, again, best of luck to you. You'll be hearing from me and my staff, hopefully in the next week or so, trying to get a debate going between yourself and obviously Mr. McGuire, who, to be fair, I mean, I want to get candidates in this primary debating about what are the best ideas to unseat the incumbent, who, quite frankly, has been an abject failure in the 3rd Congressional District, even in the short time he's been here. But he's been a failure ever since he's been in Trenton here in New Jersey. So, stay tuned for that, folks, here on Jersey First TV. We'll try to get you a debate going in the next couple of weeks here, because that's what we do here. We have real conversations because it's real talk here on Jersey First TV. Folks, again, he is Jason Cullen, running in the 3rd Congressional District, coming up on June 2nd. Jason, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you, and we'll talk to you again here on Real Talk.
Thank you.
Take care now. Folks, good stuff there with Jason Cullen, again, running in the 3rd Congressional District during the upcoming Republican primary here in New Jersey. And again, a lot of real estate to cover within the 3rd Congressional District, as I mentioned before during the interview. 38 municipalities in Burlington County, a handful in Mercer, and also a handful in Monmouth County. But certainly very different demographics, very different socioeconomic voters to interact with in the 3rd Congressional District. And folks, it's a district that's winnable for Republicans. I know that there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of chatter out there about, Democrats are going to just run through the midterms, it to be a bloodbath. I respectfully disagree. When we think about districts where voters are seeing an incumbent that's not representing them, we're seeing that in CD3. And whoever wins the Republican primary coming up on June 2nd has a real chance to unseat the incumbent in CD3 and, quite frankly, maybe return back to normalcy, where this is a district where, again, just a few cycles ago, it was not an overwhelmingly red district, but it was a red district nonetheless. And we've seen it shift purple to blue now. Folks, it's all about cycles. It's all about trends. And it's about Republicans, galvanizing independents during this cycle and making sure that people get out to vote and making sure that, far left Democrats who have done nothing to address affordability, like Herb Conway, folks, let's be honest, the reason New Jersey remains unaffordable and continues to have the highest property taxes in the country, continues to have an awful tax base here, is because of Herb Conway and his years in the legislature in Trenton. Subsequently, he moved into Congress in the House of Representatives, and he's been just as inept since being a first-term member of the House. So, folks, again, it's a winnable district if Republicans can get it together and they can galvanize independents. It's a winnable district. Again, coming up later on this November. So, again, a special thank you to Jason Cullen, running in CD3, for his time here tonight on the program. Folks, I can't say enough here. It's always great to talk to candidates during this election cycle, and we'll continue doing that throughout 2026 here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, you know what time it is. It's time for final thoughts. And as you can see there, folks, I did update the collage. Obviously, there's a lot of useless people in New Jersey, whether it's in academia. We see it with Joe Amididis over there at the Center for Cooperative Media at Woke State University over there in Montclair. Useless journalists like Tom Moran and Alan Steinberg, right? As well as Uncle Dave, David Cruz, and Max Pizarro, Jay Lassiter, useless government elected officials like Joel Torres in Jersey City on the Jersey City Council. Obviously, we have useless council people in Hoboken like Phil Cohen. And I know, folks, I did my best to try to fit him in there because the size of that nose takes up a big part of the screen. So, again, shout out to my tech skills and being able to get that picture in there in the collage and have it fit adequately. Other useless elected officials, folks, like Joe Quintero and Katie Brennan, Ravi Bala, as well as other useless government employees that we see here all the time that work in government jobs or in the nonprofit sector. But, folks, one of the biggest clowns that we can think of in our media apparatus here in New Jersey, and I can't even call him a journalist, okay? He's a paid agitator and a propagandist. And folks, when I think about that, I think about Leonard Filipowski. I'm not going to refer to him by his gimmick name. It's bullshit. I'm not going to give him the time of day for that. No, I go with legal names. Okay. Can I go by the generational talent? Sure. I might want to do that when I go out in public. No, I don't do that, folks. I'm Fernando Uribe. Okay. But Leonard Filipowski, folks, as we've come to learn for some years now here in Hudson County, even throughout New Jersey, because he's traveled up and down the state. And he's been a downright nuisance, not just in Hudson County, but in Union County and down in Trenton during legislative hearings. But last week, I was delighted to learn that in Essex County, Leonard Filipowski was indicted for his actions at the Union City Board of Education last November. Now, we'll delve into what this indictment means. Now, again, I'm not an attorney, but I've talked to some attorneys over the weekend, and I've done my own research, and I'm going to tell you exactly what to expect and what he's not telling you with his bullshit YouTube videos. As you can see there, Leonard Filipowski, and you'll see in the video there, has been nothing more than a nuisance. And for a guy who clearly, when you watch the tapes, and don't take my word for it, folks, just do a simple Google search. For a guy that's trying to vilify a police officer and accusing police officers of flopping, folks, if anyone's the king of flopping, besides, Lionel Messi, right? But the next flopper that I can think of is Leonard Filipowski. I can think of two examples. Number one, I can think of a church in Jersey City when he was nothing more than a nuisance there. And while he was being disruptive, he was asked to leave. And of course, what does he do when he's removed by Jersey City police officers? He throws himself on the floor. Okay? Trying to evoke some sort of sympathy for his cause, which no one's buying. When he was in Trenton, second example, during a Senate committee hearing, supposedly trying to advocate against the bill. No, folks, he took the opportunity, as always, to grandstand. Because that's all he's good for. Now, again, last week, let me just give you some perspective here again. okay, as Leonard Filipowski was indeed indicted on a third degree of assaulting a police officer. Now let me be very clear about New Jersey law here so you can understand what we're dealing with here. Now, a third degree indictment for knowingly causing bodily injury to a law enforcement officer who's engaged in the performance of their duties can be downgraded to a fourth degree charge. Now, while the initial indictment carries a potential 3 to 5 year state prison sentence, negotiations with the prosecutor can lead to a downgrade to a fourth degree crime, which carries a maximum of 18 months in prison. Now, again, here are some factors that could involve the downgrade. Now, downgrades are typically negotiated through a plea agreement, and a prosecutor may agree to reduce the charges based on several factors. Number one, a weakness in the evidence. If the prosecution cannot prove the bodily injury was knowingly caused or if evidence is insufficient. Folks, that's not the case in here with Leonard Filipowski. As you can see with the video I'm just about to produce. Now, again, folks, this is video taken by him, which no doubt will be put into discovery. Now, let me give you some context here. Leonard Filipowski wants you to believe that he went to the Union City Board of Education to fill out an Oprah request for information he's looking to obtain. As he's sitting there in the lobby, we will have parents with young children walking by in the vicinity. And of course, Leonard can't keep his big mouth shut. And he feels the need to be the center of attention at all times. Because Leonard Filipowski has this level of entitlement, folks. He feels he can walk in anywhere he wants, say whatever he wants, do whatever he wants. But again, there are consequences to being an asshole. Now, it's not criminal to be an asshole, Leonard, because if it was, you'd probably be serving a life sentence. But what it is criminal is to be disruptive. Okay? To be disorderly. And we've seen that in various examples for Leonard Filipowski. We saw it in a church in Jersey City, and we saw it in Trenton during a Senate committee hearing. But what's interesting, again, is the audacity of Leonard Filipowski to accuse a police officer of flopping when all we've ever known about Leonard is he's the king of flopping himself. But don't take my word for it, folks. As he's sitting there, allegedly filling out an Oprah request, can someone please tell me who thought it was a good idea to get into a screaming match with a police officer? So much so that when you tell a police officer to either shut your mouth or shut up, which you can clearly see here on the video I'm about to play, folks, who thinks that's a good idea? Who thinks that's going to have a happy ending for anybody? Now, I'm someone who respects law enforcement, as you know on this show. I back the blue more than any journalist out there. But in what world, in what version of reality, because we all know Leonard doesn't live in one, does he think it's a good idea to keep raising your voice at a police officer when all the police officer is trying to get you to do is either A, cooperate, or B, lower your voice so you're not making the vicinity uncomfortable for parents who simply want to go to the Board of Ed to address any issue they have for his or her child. But again, don't say that to Leonard. He'd rather grandstand and make it about himself and not a cause. Don't believe me? See for yourself.
We're asking you to leave.
Yeah.
The
No, I'm not. I'm going to finish my work here.
We just finished the case.
I'm going
Thank you.
because I have a right to be here. I have not broken any law, have I?
No, but yeah, actually, yes, your refrigerator, the woman you raised out may have felt harassed and uncomfortable that when you asking those things in front of her
I'm
child.
trying to help protect children here.
No, you're not, Leonard. You're trying to make it about yourself. Okay, stop the bullshit. No one buys it. Now, I get that some of your little minions, like that homeless guy you were out walking with last week in New York City. I mean, Leonard, where'd you find him? Living under a bridge? This guy looks like a meth addict. Okay, somehow manning a camera last week down by City Hall and, by Gracie Mansion during last week's, I guess, rally for something. I'm not sure what it was. Where'd you find that guy? Like trying to score like smack in downtown Manhattan, one of the street corners, right? Or the other minions. Whether it's, take your pick, folks. I don't even want to give them the time of day in the sense of their names, but we all know who they're talking about, folks. These collective group of retards. And by the way, I know some people get very, very sensitive about certain words that are being used. Folks, again, I'm not making a clinical diagnosis here, okay? There are people with learning disabilities where I would never use that terminology. Okay. But when I think of retards, I think of people who are fully functional, like Leonard clearly, but are just downright stupid. Okay. So before anyone gets a little fickle and starts menstruating, that's where the term comes from. That's the usage that's allocated here on this show. And when I talk about people like Leonard Filipowski and the retards that somehow keep following him around, that keep, clapping along like seals at the circus, waiting for someone to dangle a fish in front of them. These are the people I'm referring to. Because if they were real friends, they would sit this idiot down and say, Leonard, you're making an ass of yourself. You're not helping any cause because you're making it about yourself and not the cause you're advocating for. Okay, but let's continue on, and you can see how he's just looking to pick a fight here, how he's looking to just be an agitator. Again, don't take my word for it, folks. The video will tell you.
Yes.
And that's the bottom line. That's why I'm here.
You're talking about sex assault in front of a woman with her son.
What is worse? Asking a mother if she will help protect the other school children?
There's a place.
Oh my God.
There's a place and time for everything.
I asked you to stop.
There's a place and time.
You are not.
There's a place.
You are
and
not
time
the
for
word
everything.
police, Lieutenant Gaston.
No, neither are you. Neither are you the word police.
I'm not the word police. I'm the freedom
If she
man.
feels as though uncomfortable about you talking about sex assault to her, then
Is that?
and that she's in a public building, which you're trying to say, she should be able to come and go without being.
See, exactly. What Officer Gaston just said right there is not just legal, right? There's a legal premise he's abiding by, but folks, it's just an essence of common sense and decency, which we all know this asshole doesn't have any. Again, what have we come to learn about Leonard Filipowski? He gets all fickle and sensitive, and so do the idiots that support him about being referenced as a paid agitator, as he was referenced in an article last week when the indictment came down from the New Jersey Globe. No, folks, we know that Leonard Filipowski is a paid agitator. We saw an ELEC report last year where Tony Hector, who was running for a state assembly seat in the 33rd Legislative District, issued a check to Leonard Filipowski. Now, whether or not it was cashed, whether or not Tony Hector even really issued the check, but he put it on his ELEC report. So clearly, he's paying money to Leonard Filipowski, who we've come to learn is nothing more than an agitator. Well, folks, just by the payment alone on the ELEC report, that makes him a paid agitator. So Leonard can't even get his facts straight, and neither can the idiots that support him, right? All these people that go on the live stream, that either go do editing for him, or if he walks around with meth addicts like he did last week in New York City. Folks, this is the level of stupidity and downright retardation that we see of the people supporting. Okay? So Gaston's correct. A parent that's walking into a public building looking to speak with someone at the Board of Education as it pertains to the education of his or her child should be able to walk the hallways without having this idiot convey and espouse some harsh language there. Language that no child should be exposed to. But don't say that to Leonard. Because again, he, along with the other retards, are the constitutional guardians of Hudson County. No, you're not. You're a bunch of fucking assholes is what you are. You're children that have no sense of decorum or decency or even protocol. But again, this is what you've been outed as, Leonard. I don't have a problem saying it to you or saying it about you, but the video evidence is there. Let's continue.
Made uncomfortable. Just like you. You're right. You're right.
It's not on me. Okay, stop. I want to finish this.
All right.
You're doing cosplaying right now. I'm not interested.
I'm doing, and you were doing agitating. You're trying to agitate.
I'm trying to protect children from.
No, you're not, Leonard. You're simply being a nuisance. You're making it about yourself like you do everything else.
Sexual assault, for God's sake. That's what I'm trying to do for over a month here.
Are you that or grandstand?
See,
or grandstand.
Now,
yeah, he said it perfectly. That's all Leonard is. He's a grandstander. All he wants to do is bloviate and make it about himself. Oh, that's embarrassing. He's a grown man in his mid-80s, okay, wearing the same clothes, which probably stink, okay, with the same stupid attire, with the same antics and the same tactics. Folks, it's getting old. It's getting old like Leonard Filipowski's getting old.
Now you are going down the tubes, Lieutenant Gaston. You need to close your mouth, stop talking, and
I don't.
Stop. Disengage. De-escalate. Disengage.
You de-escalate.
Stop talking.
I don't have to de-escalate because I'm not.
Shut your mouth.
I have.
Again, who thinks telling a police officer to shut his mouth, who thinks that's going to bring a positive outcome to any confrontation with the police? Ladies and gentlemen, listen, you can have your opinions about the police. You're entitled to them. But as someone who supports law enforcement as much as I do, who backs the blue, who 6 years ago was laughing at all these progressive idiots in Hudson County and in New Jersey when everyone wanted to defund the police, yeah, how'd that work out for everybody? Okay. I'm the only journalist in Hudson County, folks, that openly and avidly supports law enforcement and makes it a point to do so on this broadcast and in all forms of my media brand. Like, Leonard, you're a grown-ass man in your mid-80s. Who thinks it's a good idea to tell a police officer to shut up? I mean, you're lucky you didn't get slapped. I mean, a lot of officers would not have taken too kindly to that. A lot of officers would have taken you to custody right there and then. So shout out to Officer Gaston for showing some poise and some decorum there where other officers probably wouldn't have to. Because what you're doing is you're escalating a confrontation with a law enforcement officer, Leonard. That's what you don't get. I get it. You're pretty stupid, and I don't expect a lot of intellect out of you. But again, folks, this isn't going to bring a good result, as you can see.
Right.
I'm telling you,
to speak here.
Listen. All right.
No,
Listen,
you're not being respectful to me right now.
You're not being
Stop
respectful.
talking to me.
And then I
Stop.
can speak to you.
Stop talking to
If
me.
I ask you, come on.
Disengage.
No, I want to talk to you about the law. Now I want to talk to you about the law.
I am going to.
If I ask you, the time and place to debate.
Look at this.
The time and place to
He
debate.
escalated. What a mess.
Ron.
Welcome. This is
Ron.
Lieutenant Gaston.
The time to
Can you
debate.
stop talking?
Listen,
I want to finish my
time to debate.
offer
The
request.
time to debate
Stop
an
talking.
issue, whether the
We don't need to hear this.
The
Hey,
legality of
blah, blah, blah,
something is in the
Blah,
court.
blah, blah,
If
blah.
I ask you to do something,
Blah, blah.
just calm down. There's no reason for you to yell at me or
You're-
attack me in any way, shape,
Stop
or form.
talking. Disengage.
It's not the place.
Remove yourself
You
from
stop
me.
from
I have
talking.
no interest in talking with you.
But
Back
you're on the
off.
show.
Back
But
down.
You're on the show.
Back
Reality
down.
is, this is a buzzing building.
I want to finish my
Right.
Oprah. You are disrupting
We've
my
allowed
peace.
to.
You are harassing
However,
me now.
all right.
Disengage.
I've asked you to leave. Guess what? You won.
Hey,
You won.
Folks, again, and you can see right there as Gaston, and listen, shout out to him. He showed a lot of poise and a lot of patience, a lot more than I would have, and many others would have. But as you can see, as he's asked him to leave. He chose not to leave. By his legal authority, Officer Gaston is removing now someone from a public building who is being disorderly. Okay? It's not like Leonard got up and cooperated. No, he got up and you can clearly tell he resisted. And he made a point to be physical and make sure that Gaston had to exert some sort of effort and energy to remove him. And in that case, what happened? You can see his right shoulder going there. And of course, he knocks down Officer Gaston.
Oh my God.
Okay, you can see it there.
We're asking you to leave the room.
No.
Okay, folks, you can see it there. Okay, I'll give it to you again. As you can see it there.
Leave. Guess what? You won. You won. Oh my God.
Now, again, as we well come to learn, subsequently, Leonard Filipowski was taken into custody and somehow only spent, I think, a night in jail, I think. So it's kind of hoping, he spent longer at the Hudson County Jail. And I'm sure maybe the inmates, when they saw him, I'm sure, who knows? Maybe the inmates had some fun with it. Who knows? We'll never know. But folks, this is what we're looking at here. Okay? And for Leonard Filipowski to now cry foul and think that this is a wrongful indictment, it isn't. Let me continue on again with the factors that could possibly be involved with the downgrade. Lack of a prior record. If a defendant with a clean criminal record maybe has a better chance of negotiating a downgrade. We're not sure if Leonard has a clean criminal record. We don't know that. We'll find out during discovery during the subsequent trial. Also, extent of injuries. If the injury was minor, it may be argued that it does not warrant a third-degree charge. Well, folks, what we're going to learn when discovery is produced in this case is that Officer Gaston suffered a severe leg injury. Okay, that's not speculation. That's not hearsay. Folks, there's documented evidence of Officer Gaston having to go to the hospital and is now going through some sort of physical rehab because of the extent of the leg injury. Okay, which was caused by this Leonard Filipowski. But Leonard will swear up and down, oh, this is wrongful arrest. And no, I didn't. No, folks, you can tell he was resisting arrest. He's being asked to leave, and he swung that shoulder backwards. What ends up happening? You knock down the officer and thus causing injury. Okay. Now, again, this is the key points here on the law. NJSA 2C colon 12-1 subset B subset 5. Third degree, if the officer suffers bodily injury, it's a crime of the third degree. Fourth degree, if the officer does not suffer injury, the charge is a fourth degree. Well, clearly, folks, we're going to learn during discovery that Leonard Filipowski caused an injury to Officer Gaston. Now, what's even more interesting here, and this is before the incident even took place, but 2 years ago, right, as it was dated in September of 2024, okay, Assembly Bill 2378 talked about upgrading certain penalties for assaulting law enforcement officers and requiring offenders to be tested for communicable diseases in certain instances, right? And of course, the agencies affected include the Department of Law and Public Safety, county, prosecutors, judiciary, Office of the Public Defender, Department of Corrections, the State Parole Board, and the Department of Health. Now, again, under the Department of Law and Public Safety, this is where municipal police departments correspond under, right? But here's the good language here, and this is what you have to keep in. This is what you have to really, really keep an eye out for. Okay. Under the current law, it is a crime. Actually, let me just put this up here. Under current law, it is a crime of the third degree to assault a law enforcement officer if the victim suffers bodily injury, which clearly this is what happened. Otherwise, it is a crime of the fourth degree. Under this bill, which subsequently, folks, was passed through the Assembly, passed through the State Senate, and signed into law in 2025 by then Governor Phil Murphy. Under this bill, the penalty for assaulting a law enforcement officer would thus become a crime of the second degree if the assault results in serious bodily injury to the officer. The bill provides that a conviction for assaulting a law enforcement officer would not merge with a conviction for any other criminal offense. Under the bill, a mandatory term of incarceration under the No Early Release Act would not apply to second-degree assault of a law enforcement officer unless the assault resulted in serious bodily injury. In addition, a person charged with a second-degree assault of a law enforcement officer will be prohibited from applying to enter a pretrial intervention program. Now, again, folks, that bill, subsequently Assembly Bill 2378, was signed again into law last year. And this is where Leonard really has to shit his pants down, because it's not hearsay, it's not speculation. Leonard did cause serious bodily harm. Okay? It's not like Officer Gaston is home with a sprained ankle, folks. It's not. Okay? He suffered a considerable harm to his leg. Okay? Now, I'm not going to reveal a medical case or medical diagnosis here, but I've talked to sources that have told me that it's a serious injury, which I'm fairly certain the prosecutor in Essex County is going to focus on that when this goes to trial. So for Leonard to go out there and publish this bullshit narrative about, was he wrongfully? No, he was not wrongfully indicted. He assaulted a police officer. He was asked to leave. He chose not to. When a police officer chose to remove him from a public building, which he's been asked to vacate, what did Leonard Filipowski do? Yes. Folks, that basic motion, pushing backwards, is what caused Officer Gaston to fall and subsequently suffer a serious injury. Okay? So what would have been a third-degree crime now has become potentially a second-degree crime. And Leonard, once again, brought it on himself. This is a guy, once again, who lives to grandstand and makes everything about himself. Somehow he's the wronged party. Somehow there's a witch hunt against. No, folks, Leonard Filipowski is an overgrown child who thinks he can walk in anywhere, say whatever he wants, whenever he wants, without any repercussions. No, Leonard, it doesn't work that way. Okay? And hopefully you're going to learn the hard way. And hopefully you're going to learn the hard way when you go to prison. And I'm hoping that the Essex County prosecutor sends a message that, you know what, you just can't assault police officers. Okay? Yes, we live in a climate where progressives hate law enforcement and the woke crowd and all these social justice idiots want to, demonizing and vilifying the police. No, folks, none of that bullshit here. I'm hopeful that the Essex County prosecutor sends a message and sets an example with this idiot. Now, in a perfect world, I'd love to see a 5-year sentence for Leonard Filipowski. Man, can you imagine the inmates in Cell Block E at Northern State Prison with Leonard? Oh, my goodness. They would have some fun with him. And we don't know what's going to happen. But any attorney, again, with their mustard, number one, shouldn't take on this case. It's a loser. And number two, sure, you can try to plead guilty, and maybe for a lesser charge. But, folks, there was serious bodily injury here. So not just is there a criminal component to Leonard, there's also a civil component where Officer Gaston very likely will be suing Leonard Filipowski for damages because of what happened on the job. Folks, if there's any justice, Leonard Filipowski, I hope, will be wearing orange for some foreseeable future. And hopefully, he learns a lesson when he's in prison. You can't assault police officers, Leonard. You can't just be an agitator, escalate and provoke fights with law enforcement and think that that's going to work out well for you. I know you and the retards that support you are all, all clapping along. There's consequences, folks. And there's consequences coming for Leonard Filipowski. And for a guy that deserves every bit of it, I'll be sitting there cheering. Hopefully during sentencing day. And I'll be sitting in that courtroom and I'll be applauding. And I know many of you at home will be doing the same. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, before we call it a night here, once again, I do want to thank you for tuning in here. And again, a special comment to everybody. Talked about it last week, and I'll talk about it again. Folks, I can't say it enough. A special thank you to my incredible team of hosts at Memories Matter, which took place on Friday night, April 17th, at the world-famous Son Cubano, located along the waterfront at 40-4 Riverwalk Place in Western New Jersey, as we hosted Memories Matter 2026 to benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. I can't say enough about what an outstanding team I got to work with a couple weeks ago to raise awareness about Alzheimer's and dementia-related illnesses. Again, I want to thank Vladimir Carrero, Emily Ñorca, Carmen Paneque, and of course, Elena Sandoval for working with me during that evening, as well as I want to thank the management and the staff at Son Cubano, and also, of course, all our great sponsors, as you can see there on the Step and Repeat banner, and also DJ Ziggy Roman for making the festivities as great as they were all night long. Folks should be proud to know here through our efforts, not just through online donations, but that evening at Son Cubano, we raised over $3,000 to benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. If you're interested, again, just do a simple Google search, Memories Matter 2026, or reach out to me on social media. Happy to provide the QR code, and you can donate to benefit Alzheimer's New Jersey. Again, folks, your online donation is safe, secure, and indeed tax deductible. Let's do our part, folks. And again, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to volunteer for Alzheimer's New Jersey. And I've been doing so for some years now. And really, they're the first line of support for over 600,000 New Jersey residents and their families who are battling with Alzheimer's and dementia-related illnesses. So you know what? I'm proud to do my part. Let's do all our part, folks, to help out Alzheimer's New Jersey. And together, we can defeat Alzheimer's and dementia once and for all. I can't thank enough, again, everybody involved with the success of Memories Matter, to all my guests, family, friends, everyone in attendance, elected officials who came by. Again, I can't say enough about your support of my philanthropy and what it means to me to keep doing this, because every single year, folks, now more than ever, let's make a difference and help Alzheimer's New Jersey here in the Garden State. And that's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I want to thank Jason Cullen, running in the 3rd Congressional District, coming up during the upcoming primary on June 2nd. Folks, if you miss any part of the program, like, comment, and share. It helps the show grow. It helps the show reach as many people as you can on the algorithm every single week. Again, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like us on Facebook and make sure you follow us on Instagram and X. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Spotify or SoundCloud here on the Jersey First Television Network. Of course, folks, brand new episodes of Real Talk air every Monday night live. Check your local listings, of course, for start times And folks, we'll continue to bring you the best analysis and commentary about everything going on in New Jersey politics and more every single week here on Real Talk via the Jersey First Television Network. That's right, folks. It's always real traffic with real conversations. And of course, folks, because it's Real Talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It is me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long. Please party responsibly. Enjoy the rest of April. Again, we have a few days. And we'll see you next Monday night, folks, as we'll be in the month of It's Gonna Be May. Of course, if you like that little subtle little play on words there, shout out to NSYNC there in that classic that still resonates 25 years later. Folks, I'll see you next week here on Real Talk as we will have U.S. Senate candidate Alex Zidane here live next Monday night. Again, check your local listings for start times. And of course, mark it on your calendars. And we appreciate your support here, folks, for fearless independent media. Not some of that bullshit Mickey Mouse media with some Mickey Mouse journalists with a little Mickey Mouse podcast. No, folks, nothing Mickey Mouse here. As always, it's real traffic because it's real conversations with a real host because it's Real Talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.